The Medici family. The Medici family rose from modest wool merchants to become Europe's most powerful banking dynasty in 1434 Florence. Giovanni de' Medici laid the foundation, but it was Cosimo the Elder who transformed the family into financial puppet masters. They pioneered double-entry bookkeeping to hide massive fraud and tax evasion schemes. The Medicis controlled the papacy's finances, charging 40% interest while publicly condemning usury as sin. They manipulated currency exchanges across Europe, crashing entire economies for profit. When the Pazzi family challenged them in 1478, the Medicis orchestrated public executions of 80 conspirators, hanging bodies from government buildings as warnings. They spent 600,000 florins, roughly $500 million today, bribing their way to power, producing 4 popes and 2 queens of France. Their loans to monarchs came with political strings, essentially purchasing countries. When Florence tried establishing democracy, the Medicis hired mercenary armies to reclaim control, killing thousands of citizens. The family embezzled an estimated 2 million florins from Florence's treasury while commissioning art to appear generous. They built 50 palaces while Florence's poor starved. Their banking network collapsed in 1494 due to bad loans to monarchs, but they'd already extracted generational wealth. The Medici legacy includes beautiful Renaissance art funded by blood money, and the template for every corrupt banking family that followed. They proved that with enough money, you could buy respectability, murder competitors, and have history remember you as patrons rather than parasites.
The Rothschild family. Mayer Amschel Rothschild started in Frankfurt's Jewish ghetto in the 1760s trading rare coins. He strategically placed his 5 sons in Europe's major cities, London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt, creating the first international banking network. This positioning would make them history's wealthiest family. During the Napoleonic Wars, the Rothschilds funded both sides, lending £20 million to Britain while secretly financing Napoleon. Nathan Rothschild in London manipulated the Battle of Waterloo's outcome for profit. Using carrier pigeons faster than official messengers, he learned of Napoleon's defeat early. He spread false rumors of British defeat, crashed the market, bought everything cheaply, then made £20 million, roughly $4.5 billion today, in a single day. By 1850, the family controlled half of world's wealth, worth an estimated $6 trillion in modern currency. They monopolized European government bonds, controlling national debts of Britain, France, Austria, Germany, and Italy. Countries couldn't wage war without Rothschild approval and funding. They fixed gold prices daily in their London offices for 200 years, manipulating global markets. During the Irish famine, they profited from food speculation while 1 million died. In the American Civil War, they funded both the Union and Confederate bonds, profiting regardless of outcome. The family's wealth is now distributed among hundreds of descendants, hidden in private banks, art collections, and wine estates worth over $500 billion. They created central banking systems that still control global finance. Every modern financial crisis traces back to systems the Rothschilds designed for maximum extraction.
The Rockefeller family. John D. Rockefeller started with $4,000 in Cleveland, Ohio in 1863. By 1880, his Standard Oil controlled 90% of American oil refining through tactics so ruthless they inspired antitrust laws. His fortune peaked at $400 billion in today's money, the richest American ever. Rockefeller's strategy was simple: destroy or absorb every competitor. He secured secret railroad rebates, paying $1 per barrel, while competitors paid $3. When rivals refused to sell, he'd flood their markets below cost until they went bankrupt. He controlled pipelines, railroads, and legislators. Standard Oil's private police force killed 28 striking workers across multiple incidents. He pioneered predatory pricing, selling kerosene at massive losses to bankrupt competitors, then tripling prices once monopoly was secured. Poor families paid 40% of income for heating oil. When journalists exposed his crimes, Rockefeller bought newspapers or destroyed reporters through blackmail. Ida Tarbell's father was driven to suicide by Standard Oil's tactics. The 1911 Supreme Court breakup of Standard Oil made Rockefeller richer. The 34 new companies' combined value tripled his wealth. He spent his final decades laundering his reputation through calculated philanthropy, giving away $540 billion while keeping $1.4 billion. His descendants continue controlling Chase Manhattan Bank, ExxonMobil, and Chevron. The Rockefeller Foundation shapes global health policy, education, and agriculture, soft power purchased with blood money. 6 generations later, 200 family members share $11 billion, while their companies generate $400 billion annually. John D. Rockefeller proved you could commit any crime if you donated libraries afterward.
The Vanderbilt family. Cornelius Vanderbilt dropped out of school at 11, starting with one ferry boat in 1810. By his death in 1877, he controlled $100 million, more than the entire U.S. Treasury. His methods were so brutal that ministers refused to eulogize him. Vanderbilt eliminated competitors through violence and sabotage. He hired gangs to destroy rival railroad tracks, causing 67 documented train crashes that killed over 200 people. When Daniel Drew challenged his shipping monopoly, Vanderbilt cornered the entire stock market, nearly crashing America's economy to destroy one man. He paid workers $1 per day for 14-hour shifts while spending $3 million on his son's wedding. During the 1877 railroad strike, Vanderbilt's private militia killed 39 workers. He bribed entire state legislatures, once sending suitcases containing $100 million cash to Albany. When asked about legality, he responded, "Law? What do I care about law? Haven't I got the power?" His manipulation of railroad stocks wiped out thousands of investors. He'd spread false bankruptcy rumors, buy cheap shares, then reveal record profits. This destroyed $30 million in middle-class savings. During the Civil War, he sold dangerous ships to the Union Navy, causing 400 preventable deaths while profiting $18 million. The family built 10 mansions costing $65 million total while paying zero federal taxes through loopholes. Within 3 generations, they squandered everything on parties, yachts, and failed investments. The Vanderbilt fortune vanished by 1970, proving even $100 million couldn't buy competent heirs.
The Morgan family. J.P. Morgan inherited $5 million from his banker father in 1890, parlaying it into control of 40% of American industry by 1912. His personal wealth reached $80 billion in modern dollars, but his real power was controlling other people's money. Morgan orchestrated the Panic of 1907 for profit, spreading rumors about bank instability to trigger runs. As smaller banks collapsed, he bought them for pennies, then heroically ended the crisis he created. This manipulation let him establish the Federal Reserve System in 1913, giving private bankers control over American currency. He formed U.S. Steel by forcing Andrew Carnegie to sell at gunpoint, literally displaying a revolver during negotiations. The monopoly controlled 67% of steel production, fixing prices that added $40 to every ton. Bridge collapses from inferior Morgan steel killed over 300 people between 1900 and 1910. During World War I, Morgan became Britain and France's exclusive purchasing agent, earning $30 million in commissions while 10 million soldiers died. He loaned allies $2.5 billion at crushing interest rates, then lobbied America into war to protect his loans. His profiteering extended the war by 2 years. Morgan owned 70% of newspapers to control public opinion, suppressing stories about his monopolies. He caused 3 recessions through market manipulation, each time emerging richer. His art collection, stolen through foreclosures, was worth $900 million. The Morgan banking empire, now J.P. Morgan Chase, paid $13 billion in fraud settlements since 2008, while controlling $3.7 trillion in assets. 5 generations later, the family maintains power through 200 board positions across major corporations.
The Marcos family. Ferdinand Marcos rose from convicted murderer to Philippine president in 1965, ruling for 21 years through martial law. He and wife Imelda stole between $10 to $30 billion, the greatest theft from a developing nation in history. Marcos invented 33 war medals, including 2 Distinguished Service Crosses, building fake heroism to win elections. Once in power, he declared martial law in 1972, abolishing Congress and ruling by decree.
His regime killed 70,000 political opponents and tortured 35,000 more. Bodies were displayed publicly as warnings. While Filipinos earned $2 daily, Imelda spent $5 million on a shopping weekend in New York. She owned 3,000 pairs of shoes, 15 mink coats, and 508 gowns, while 70% of Filipinos lived below poverty. The couple maintained 170 foreign bank accounts, 200 businesses, and properties across 5 continents. They monopolized coconut and sugar industries, forcing farmers to sell at fixed prices while exporting at 500% markup. This agricultural manipulation caused 2 famines, killing 10,000 children. International aid meant for typhoon victims $800 million went directly to Swiss accounts. Marcos spent $2.5 billion on unnecessary construction projects, taking 15% kickbacks. The infamous film center rushed for Imelda's festival killed 169 workers when scaffolding collapsed. Bodies were buried in concrete to meet deadlines. After fleeing to Hawaii in 1986, they left behind 1,060 positions of jewelry and $800 million in art. Yet the family returned to power. Son Bongbong became president in 2022, daughter Aimee a senator. They've paid back only $4 billion of stolen wealth while maintaining hidden billions globally.
The Suharto family. General Suharto seized power in 1965 through a CIA-backed coup, ruling Indonesia for 32 years. His family embezzled $35 billion while presiding over 3 genocides that killed 2 million people. Suharto's rise involved executing 500,000 suspected communists in 1965. Villages were given quotas for killings. Rivers ran red for bodies for months. He then invaded East Timor in 1975, killing 200,000 civilians, 1/3 of the population. His regime murdered another 100,000 in West Papua, stealing their gold mines. The family controlled everything through foundations. Son Tommy monopolized clove cigarettes, forcing farmers to sell at $2 per kilogram while exporting at $8. Daughter Tutut got 20% kickbacks on all infrastructure projects. Wife Tien was called Madam 10% for her corruption cut. They owned 3.6 million acres of land, 40% of Indonesia's mining, and majority stakes in 564 companies. While Suharto built 7 palaces, 40% of Indonesians lacked clean water. The family spent $100 million on daughter Tutut's wedding while rice farmers starved. During the 1997 Asian financial crisis, caused partly by their corruption, riots killed 1,000 Chinese Indonesians while Suharto's fled with $15 billion in gold. Son Tommy later murdered the judge investigating him, yet served only 4 years. The family retains $15 billion hidden in Austrian banks. No Suharto has faced justice for genocide or theft. 6 children remain billionaires, controlling political parties and businesses. Tommy drives Lamborghinis through Jakarta slums, protected by presidential immunity laws his father wrote.
The Assad family. Hafez el-Assad seized Syria through military coup in 1970, establishing a dynasty that's killed 700,000 Syrians while amassing $2 billion in personal wealth. His son, Bashar, continues the slaughter today. Hafez ruled through the Shabiha, ghost militia, who executed entire villages. The 1982 Hama massacre killed 40,000 civilians in 27 days. Artillery flattened the city, then bulldozers pushed bodies into mass graves. Survivors were tortured in Tadmor prison, where guards killed 25 inmates daily for sport. When Bashar inherited power in 2000, he promised reform while secretly building chemical weapons. Since 2011's uprising, he's killed 500,000 Syrians, including 30,000 children. He drops barrel bombs on hospitals and schools, uses sarin gas on civilians, and operates 27 torture centers where 17,000 have died. The family controls 60% of Syria's economy through cousin Rami Makhlouf. While refugees eat grass to survive, Assad's wife, Esma, spent $350,000 on furniture and $7,000 on crystal shoes. Their fortune sits in Russian and Iranian banks, payment for selling Syria's sovereignty. Assad profits from suffering directly. His regime taxes international aid, stealing $100 million meant for victims. They monopolize fuel and food, create artificial famines to break opposition areas. The Captagon drug trade, run by brother Meher, generates $5 billion annually.
Despite ICC war crimes warrants, Assad remains in power through Russian military support and Iranian money. The family has destroyed 2,000-year-old heritage sites for profit, selling antiquities for weapons. Syria's reconstruction will cost $400 billion, 10 times what the Assad stole, while turning their nation to rubble.
The Duvalier family it took power in Haiti in 1957, creating a hereditary dictatorship that destroyed the America's first black republic. He and son Baby Doc stole $1.7 billion, while Haitians became the hemisphere's poorest people. Papa Doc was a physician who studied voodoo, declaring himself Baron Samedi, the death spirit. His Tonton Macoute militia, named after a child-eating demon, terrorized Haiti. They wore sunglasses to hide their eyes, carried machetes, and left bodies hanging in public squares. 60,000 Haitians were murdered. Hundreds of thousands fled. While Haiti's budget was $30 million annually, Papa Doc stole $15 million directly. He sold Haitian blood plasma to America for $7 per liter, while Haitians died from anemia. Dead bodies were exported to medical schools for $3,000 each. He printed money arbitrarily, causing 900% inflation. Baby Doc inherited power at 19 in 1971, marrying Michelle Bennett in a $3 million wedding, while 80% of Haitians suffered malnutrition. Michelle spent $50,000 monthly on fur coats in tropical Haiti. Their monthly champagne budget exceeded a teacher's yearly salary. International aid was stolen systematically. $22 million from IMF went to Swiss accounts. Food aid was sold to Dominican Republic while Haitians starved. Baby Doc charged $30,000 for government meetings and sold diplomatic passports for $40,000 to drug traffickers. Fleeing to France in 1986 with $900 million, they left Haiti destroyed. Life expectancy dropped to 47 years, literacy to 20%. The Duvaliers created the template for African dictatorships, proving small nations could be treated as personal ATMs.
The Sackler family. The Sacklers built Purdue Pharma in 1952, ultimately causing 500,000 opioid deaths while extracting $13 billion in profits. They knew OxyContin was deadly, but marketed it as safe, creating America's worst drug epidemic. Arthur Sackler pioneered pharmaceutical advertising in the 1960s, inventing disease marketing, convincing healthy people they were sick. Brothers Mortimer and Raymond joined him, but it was Richard Sackler who weaponized OxyContin in 1996, claiming less than 1% addiction risk when internal studies showed 40%. Purdue hired 1,000 sales reps, targeting doctors with kickbacks totaling $40 million annually. They identified high-prescribing doctors through stolen DEA data, sending them to luxury resorts. One doctor prescribed 335,000 pills yearly from a parking lot, receiving $200,000 from Purdue. When addiction exploded, Sacklers launched Blame the Victim campaigns, claiming patients were criminals, not victims. They funded pain organizations that attacked opioid restrictions. Meanwhile, Richard Sackler patented addiction treatment drugs, profiting from the cure to their poison. Court documents revealed they knew everything. Emails showed Richard Sackler calling victims scum, suggesting they deserved overdoses. While bodies piled up, Sacklers withdrew $10.7 billion from Purdue, hiding it in offshore trusts. They donated $200 million to museums for naming rights, laundering their reputation. Declared bankruptcy in 2019, they kept personal billions through legal manipulation. The family paid $6 billion in settlements while admitting no wrongdoing, maintaining immunity from prosecution. Today, Sackler-owned Rhodes Pharma still manufactures opioids, and the family remains billionaires. Their name removed from museums, but not from 500,000 graves.
The Leopold II dynasty orchestrated history's most profitable genocide, personally owning Congo from 1885 to 1908. He extracted $1.1 billion in today's money while killing 10 to 15 million Congolese, half the population. Leopold never visited Congo, ruling through the force publique militia. Villages received rubber quotas, missed them, and soldiers cut off hands as proof of punishment. Baskets of severed hands became currency. Children's hands were worth half an adult's. Soldiers preserved hands in salt for accounting purposes. Rubber profits were staggering. Leopold paid nothing for labor, selling rubber at 900% profit margins. Workers who failed quotas watched their children's hands and feet cut off. Women were held in rape camps as motivation. Entire villages were burned. Survivors were shot for sport. Missionaries documented soldiers killing children for rifle practice. Leopold spent profits on teenage mistresses, giving one 32-year-old prostitute estates worth $15 million. He built 50 unnecessary buildings in Brussels, costing $200 million, while Congolese died at 1,000 daily.
His personal railway through virgin jungle cost 20,000 lives per mile of track. International outrage finally forced Belgium's government to take Congo in 1908, but Leopold had extracted everything valuable. He burned archives for 8 days straight, destroying evidence. Before dying in 1909, he liquidated remaining Congolese assets for $50 million. Congo never recovered. Leopold's infrastructure served only extraction, creating permanent underdevelopment. His ghost haunts Central Africa through ongoing conflicts over resources he first weaponized. Belgium refuses reparations, while Congolese remained among Earth's poorest people.
The Carnegie family. Andrew Carnegie arrived from Scotland penniless in 1848, dying in 1919 worth $310 billion in modern money. His steel empire was built on 35,000 worker deaths in America's bloodiest labor battle. Carnegie learned business through insider trading as a telegraph operator, using advanced knowledge of Civil War battles to manipulate stocks. His first fortune came from selling defective rifles to Union Army, causing 2,000 soldier deaths from exploding barrels. He invested profits in steel, pioneering vertical integration, owning mines, mills, ships, and railroads. Working conditions were hellish. Mill temperatures reached 130 degrees. Shifts lasted 12 hours, 7 days weekly. Workers earned $2 daily, while Carnegie made $25 million annually. Between 1890 and 2010, Carnegie Steel killed 3,500 workers through accidents. He fought every safety regulation as socialism. The 1892 Homestead strike exposed his brutality. While vacationing in Scotland, Carnegie ordered manager Henry Frick to break the union. Frick hired 300 Pinkerton mercenaries who opened fire on workers, killing 16. State militia occupied the town for 95 days. Carnegie telegrammed approval while publicly expressing regret. His philanthropy was image rehabilitation. He gave away $350 million, but kept $480 million. Libraries came with conditions. Towns had to fund operations forever, creating permanent tax burdens. He demanded naming rights and statues. While funding 2,500 libraries, he simultaneously cut wages 30%, causing 3 famines in steel towns. Carnegie's autobiography omitted all violence, creating the myth of benevolent capitalism. His foundations continue whitewashing his legacy, controlling education narratives, while Pittsburgh's rivers still run orange from his mill's pollution.